All right, my friendly friend, we are here. We made it. This is so weird to say. Welcome to the last episode of the IBS Freedom Podcast.
As we go on, we remember all the times we
I feel like you're like dating yourself very specifically because there was a stretch of time where that was the graduation song for everybody. I think it might have either been like that song might have come out my senior year of high school or maybe the year after. But I remember there was a stretch of time where that was always played.
Yes.
So
sure. Like every graduation party with like pictures of people.
Oh yeah. Yep. The
is
montage.
Like right.
We could do that. We could do that. We could have our editor guy do that. Certainly. We'll see if we can sneak in some fun photos at some point here, but holy crap, folks, we're here. We're here. Amy, this has been 6 years of our lives, 6 years minus 2 months. Because if I can take us down memory lane for a nanosecond here, I reached out to you in August of 2020, which feels like forever ago. And I basically messaged you on Facebook and was like, hey, I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall, but I followed you for a while and I think you're pretty great and you like know what you're talking about. And I think we would see eye to eye. Do you want to do a podcast together? And much to my delight, we talked on the phone and we hit it off and we pursued this here podcast. So we spoke in August, we started recording in September, and we published our first 5 episodes in October of 2020. So yeah,
That's what people should remember 2020.
Yes, exactly.
That the IBS Freedom Podcast.
The beginning of the IBS Freedom Podcast.
Yes.
Well, I joked with a lot of people that year. I was like, yeah, I'm really cliche. I started an online course and I started a podcast in 2020. I feel like those were like the only one that would have been missing from that. The trifecta would be that I worked from home, but I did not at that point. I waited until 2022 to make the transition to working from home. So I was a little bit delayed on that one. But 6 years of our lives. Can you even believe it?
It's kind of flown by. I feel like in particular, just because I had so many, like I had just children in the mix, I feel like that made it go faster too, where you're like kind of in a delirium,
From the lack of sleep, if nothing else.
4 of those years have been a little bit delirious, but we could always meet and discuss fun topics on the pod, which was always so fun.
Yeah.
I know. It is wild just to think it's been 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was telling a friend earlier, actually, that like, on the one hand, I think we might have broached this topic briefly before, but I'll just be kind of transparent with it. 230 episodes. I think we both feel like we've said it all at this point, with a little asterisk that I'll get to in a second. But, you can only do so many episodes on leaky gut. You can only do so many episodes on SIBO until it's like, okay, like we get it. And the thing is, too, is that with our approach and like what we have come to believe to be true about health and healing and the gut, it's like generally all of our episodes go back to the unsexy basics anyway. And it's like we can only beat that dead horse so many times before it gets old. At least for us. I don't know about for the viewers. But I think that's a big reason why we're wrapping it up. And I think honestly too, like just where both of us are at in our lives right now. Like I was pondering as I told my friend this, I was like, theoretically we could do another season and just have it be all guest episodes. And we could bring new people in to talk about new exciting things. And like, we could do that. We could keep it going, but that would require more time and effort and manpower than I think either of us have the bandwidth for at the moment.
Right.
You have 2 little kids. I'm in the middle of an existential midlife crisis. It just, it's like, I don't think either of us are really in a place in our lives where we are willing or able to like hoof it and pound the pavement and like get the guests and schedule the guests and like do all that needs to happen to make that happen. And I don't think we're like in a place where we want to hire that position out either.
Yeah.
So it's like shy of doing something like that and totally changing the format of the podcast. If it's just primarily going to be the 2 of us talking, I feel like we talked about a lot in the 230 episodes together. So,
Yeah,
we done.
I totally agree. I mean, I think we're both at a point where maybe our capacity is a little bit limited and we need to focus on other projects and things that we're working on. But yeah, I think, I totally agree. And I think that we've definitely evolved throughout this process in a lot of really positive ways. And I feel like it's been so great to like chat with you over the 6 years because it helps sort of like helps me think a little bit differently about certain things, you know, and then I'm sure like different things I've said have helped you think differently, and it's made us both, I think, better practitioners, which
for sure
is like one of the benefits that's more we see, but maybe the viewers don't see. But I think it is really nice when, you know, we work with pretty severe cases, so it's always nice to be able to like problem solve and you know, get deeper into the weeds of different topics and have us look at things from a different lens that, you know, Nikki might have a totally different lens. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a unique thing I had never heard of about that. And that's always like, probably the most beneficial thing for me personally is getting kind of a different perspective on more difficult, tougher, cases too that we've kind of talked through over the years.
Well, and I'll confess, a lot of that has happened off camera. So I think it's the friendship that has made the biggest impact for us. Like, yes, we've researched for these episodes, especially more recently, like when we did the single nutrient series, when we did the parasite episodes recently, like we actually spent some time reading and researching and prepping for those episodes. The beginning was, you know, we could just talk off cup on a lot of things because it's like, oh yeah, let's talk about candida for an hour. That's easy. But as we got into, you know, topics that we couldn't talk off the top of our head on, or like we wanted to be a bit more detailed or a bit more accurate or like clear up some misunderstandings, like with the parasite episodes, you know, we researched. So I think like we've grown in that way. And like you said, like for all that, I think we align very well clinically. The reality is we do have some different background and training and experience. And there have been numerous times where I've bounced ideas off of you, like nutrition wise. And I think you've asked me about like herbs kind of off camera. And we've been able to teach each other. But like I was telling somebody, that you know this, the viewers don't, but I was just at an integrative medicine seminar this past weekend. And it's interesting going back to that idea of like evolving over the 6 years, because I've been going to that particular event for about 9 years. I think the first year I went, my daughter was a toddler. And so I've seen a lot of the same people and, you know, chatted and gotten dinner with and networked with the same people for 9 years. And most of them are in and around North Carolina. And, you know, they have come to know me as like the microbiome queen and the SIBO expert and the IBS person. And it's just been interesting, like watching, you know, how much I get out of certain conferences or certain events. But one of the things I was telling somebody about, one of my friends in that group was saying that her best friend just got diagnosed with, I think it was stage 3 colon cancer. Out of like 43 years old, like she's young for this too, and like eats pretty clean, like you wouldn't ever think. And I was encouraging her to have the friend do a little bit of chronometer tracking to just verify that she's getting enough fiber and diversity and, you know, and like look for any kind of nutritional holes that, you know, she was showing me a stool test and we were talking about this, but I was showing her chronometer and she was like, wow, this is amazing. Like this is an MD, right? So she has no idea. Or maybe she's a nurse practitioner, I forget actually. But, you know, she was just mind blown that an app like Chronometer exists, let alone you could use it for free or super cheap. And she was so excited about that. And I was telling her, I said, you know, 6-7 years ago, I would have told you that I did nutrition because I did functional medicine and we are told that food is medicine and we are told that we're nutrition experts. And we go to the seminars and we learn how to coach somebody through an elimination diet or how to run the best possible food sensitivity test to diagnose the bad foods, right? And like tell people to cut them out. And so I was brainwashed into thinking that like I could say that I do nutrition now because I do all that. And like food is medicine, man. And I was telling her, I said, you know, honestly, 6-7 years ago, I would have people do a food diary, but it would be like a handwritten diary, just write down the foods that you eat in a day for 3 days. And I'd have them bring it into my office and I would look at it and I would just skim it and basically think to myself, okay, are they mostly eating junk or are they mostly eating healthy foods? I'm looking for like 80-20 or something similar. And as long as they weren't eating Doritos for every meal, I probably was like, okay. And if I saw a lot of wheat, I might have mentioned, ooh, we should investigate gluten. Or if they were, eating tons and tons of dairy, maybe I would mention that. But, or if they had insulin resistance issues, I might look more closely at like the amount of sugary foods they were eating. But it was very surface level.
Right.
I was not looking to see, are they getting enough riboflavin in their diet? Are they getting enough potassium in their diet? Are they getting enough insert favorite nutrient in diet? And I had no idea that nutritional insufficiencies were so widespread and common. But thanks to you, one of the many things that you've taught me over the years is like, to almost kind of borrow from the functional medicine world, right? It's kind of in the realm of test, don't guess. Like, don't assume that you're getting enough calories.
Right.
Don't assume you're getting enough fiber. Don't assume that you're getting enough niacin. Like, do at least a couple days of tracking and just see, I'm not saying you have to track your nutrition for the rest of your life, but, maybe do a day or two and just verify what you believe about your diet. Because we human beings are notoriously bad at assessing our own diet, like in our head. And it's really helpful to get a proper food diary with like vitamins and minerals and macros and calories and all of that shit. But that's probably the single biggest evolution I've gone through because of this podcast, is just like sort of learning how to do nutrition better. I'm not going to claim that I'm a registered dietitian. I don't think I'm at your level still, nor would I probably attempt to be, shy of getting that degree myself. But like, I think I'm doing a lot better nutrition work than when we first met, which is wild to think about.
Yeah. Well, I think, from my standpoint, one of the biggest evolutions too, and in part, it might have been related to some of my postpartum OCD stuff, was sort of like, and I know we were talking about it and kind of like fleshing it out together, was just like, like starting to see how much people in the IBS space do a lot of like coping style or compulsory things to try to avoid discomfort, and how that kind of feeds into the cycle. Basically understanding that we already knew that our patients had some mindset hangups and some food fear stuff, but sort of like looking at it through a slightly different lens to me was very helpful. It's kind of like some of my own stuff sort of like made that a little clearer of like, oh, if you're treating food like it's not safe, it's not going to be safe. So, I feel like talking that out with you and sort of like going through it personally, I feel like was one of the big things. Because that's something that was like a light bulb moment for me, where it's like, oh yeah, like the mindset piece, I knew it was big, but I feel like it was much bigger than I initially realized. Whereas I think the functional space tends to look at things from the mindset of like, there's some sort of like physiological reason why someone has IBS, like they have SIBO or they have dysbiosis or they have like a lot of times it's microbial in nature, and it's like maybe there's a part of that. I'm not going to totally discredit that, but I think what people don't understand, and that I hope we've highlighted a lot, is that like, again, if you are so scared to experiment, if you're so scared of foods, if you won't go out in public because there's no restroom that you're familiar with, or like if you really basically manipulate your life to control symptoms and to kind of like, avoid things, avoid discomfort, avoid symptomology, avoid food reactivity, typically that leads to more symptoms. It's sort of like a weird
it's
cycle.
Like a self-perpetuating kind of thing.
Yes.
And I'll mention something actually. Can I throw Amy from 5-6 years ago under the bus slightly? Can we make fun
Please.
of old Amy? I don't know why this one stands out in my head. Maybe because at the time I thought, ooh, that's really like brilliant and I'm going to try that with people. I remember in season 1.
Okay.
Again, so this was several moons back now. I remember we were talking about reintroducing foods, and at that time, so this was pre you having your children, pre your deep dive into like the OCD anxiety kind of thing. We were talking about, you know, kind of the conventional wisdom with reintroducing foods, right? Is start with a small amount. If that goes okay, then you could do a medium amount. If that goes okay, you could do a full serving of whatever it is. And I think at the time you had even brought up, you know, if you're really freaked out about food, maybe the first step is to just sniff the broccoli. And maybe that's just what you do in the first step of it. And then the next day, maybe you put the broccoli in your mouth, but then you can spit it out, right? And it's like, you kind of prove to yourself that the broccoli isn't going to hurt you, you know, in and of itself. Like, and so in a way, it was sort of reminiscent of like exposure therapy with OCD, and it kind of makes sense. But now I look back at that and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, that was probably too far.
Yeah, like, ooh, that's...
Maybe you need to push a little bit further than that.
Yeah, like maybe that's reinforcing the fear and the OCD. And, you know, and that's, it's such a fine line. And we've talked about this a bit, I think, on here too, is that you don't necessarily want to go from being low FODMAP for 3 years of your life to all of a sudden eating like a bloomin' onion in all in one sitting. Like that, I mean, that would cause gastrointestinal upset for anybody, right? But you also don't necessarily want to be like so rigid and so OCD and so paranoid and fearful that you're like licking a piece of onion as the first thing you do. And so there's got to be some like practical middle ground where you're being kind to yourself and you're doing like an exposure therapy-esque introduction, but you're also like not structuring it in a way that makes you more freaked out and more scared and more controlling. And it's such a fine line.
I think it's like structuring it in a, like, I think fundamentally speaking, you have to get to a place where you're mentally okay to experiment. So like where you aren't necessarily, I always almost think of it as like you get to this place where you're like, screw it, I can handle it. Like I can handle some changes in symptoms. Now again, like one of my favorite stories, I don't know if I've even ever told it here, was I had a patient, I think he was from Colombia. I can't remember the exact country, which is bad, but basically he was from Latin America, and he was like about to go visit his family there, and he was like reintroducing beans. And I was like, oh yeah, go for it. He literally, and we kind of had a good laugh about it, but ate a whole can of beans and was like, I felt miserable, like after, you know, not eating them. But I think he was like, oh my God, these taste so good. Like they remind me of home, that sort of thing. And like, even in that situation, like he might've gone a little overboard, but like he did survive. He was uncomfortable. So I think like the main thing is like when you're introducing, I'd almost rather someone overshoot it than under in a weird way. Like sometimes people will come to me and they'll be like, oh my God, you'll never believe what I did. I did something terrible. And it's like, well, okay, so you ate a bloomin' onion or something, or, you know, like you ate something a little too much and that didn't sit right. Like I'd rather you be doing that than eating like 1 teaspoon of
I admire your bravery.
Right. So I think there is a fine line, but from my standpoint, you have to sort of understand the mindset behind it. I think mainly we want patients to get to a point where they totally kind of like embrace the idea of like, oh, my symptoms could change if I eat something. And like I can handle that. And sometimes that's not even a bad thing. It just means like my gut's adapting. It's kind of how you reframe and shift your whole attitude towards the fear, I think, again, is such a big piece of it. And I think if I can get patients moving in that direction where it's like, okay, like I'm up for it. Like, yes, I might have symptoms changing and there's going to be ebbing and flowing as I build capacity and as I build foods into the system. But I think that has been such a major shift in my work personally from like a lot of the work we've done on the pod is like, really focusing on kind of the mindset piece, the nervous system piece related to that as well. But like, getting a patient to the point where they can kind of dive into the process, and they're, like you mentioned, like responding with gentleness, curiosity, kind of like compassion to shifting, but they're not really trying to like change things day to day. It's much more of like, okay, I'm like on this ride. Maybe I check in month to month or something, but I'm not necessarily like, oh man, I had a symptom at noon. I need to go on Reddit and try to figure out what I can take to resolve the bloating.
Yeah, again,
oh
like the
man, what did I
compulsion to
eat?
fix it immediately.
Was it that one bean I ate? Like, I feel like it's that whole like story that we start drifting into when the symptoms arrive. If we can kind of find ways to quiet that, or to just sort of like let your brain chatter go and sort of redirect focus. Yeah. That's, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing I find in terms of like success with IBS. And again, I think eating more, like the nutritional piece that you were mentioning before. Like if your needs are 2,000 calories and you're getting 1,200 a day, like it's just going to be a problem no matter what. So
yeah. Well, and to your point too, that was something else that came up a lot at this conference that I was at. Because again, like I've known some of these people for 10 years. I had the same conversation with like 3 different people. And because I presented at this conference 2 years ago, and my talk was all about like nutrition for SIBO. And like it was a good presentation. I'm not saying it wasn't, but even in the span of a couple of years, I think I've made some changes. But I've told like 3 separate people at this conference, I said, what's weird? The further out I get, the more experience I get, the more people I meet with and observe and help, the more clinical experience I get, the less I care about the microbiome.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to say, because for those of you who are unaware, at least as of the recording of this episode, my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube handle is the Gut Microbiome Queen. I'm actually contemplating changing that now, as a matter of fact. And, it's like I care less about the microbiome in the sense of individual microbes, good guys versus bad guys, making recommendations based on stool testing or based on individual microbes. Like that's what I mean.
Right.
But I care so much less about that. And I care more and more with each passing day about the nervous system, about nervous system regulation. How much are you in fight, flight, freeze, appease versus rest and digest? Like, are you, working through, unresolved trauma, or are you like living every day in a trauma response or a sympathetic response? Are there things that you can do, whether it be therapy, adaptogens, vagus nerve stim, lifestyle changes, are there things that you could do to help your nervous system regulate better and cope with life and like live a happier, healthier life? And then by way of doing that, your gut will function better, right? That's where it's at, in my opinion. And honestly, that's where it's at in the opinion of many IBS researchers. Like I can't tell you how many papers are out there that explicitly say IBS is a disorder of the gut-brain interaction. And I'll share a short story for a moment on that topic. I know I've told you the story, but I'll share it here too, is I remember there was one patient that I worked with some years ago. I want to say 4 years ago, maybe. And we were making very limited progress, maybe no progress. I forget, but we had done a few appointments and we were making basically no progress. And I don't remember all of her symptoms or all of her story, but I remember interacting with her and like the stress and the anxiety and the nervous system dysregulation was like palpable. Like I could tell how just dysregulated she was and frantic. And, it's understandable she wanted to feel better. I totally get that. But I brought up as gently as I could in the appointment, I kind of gently brought up the idea of nervous system regulation and like stress management playing a role in her case. And, I might have suggested, doing 5 minutes of deep belly breathing a day or something like that. And I thought I approached it really well. Like it's a hard topic to breach with some people, right? Because you don't want to come across as the asshole that's like, it's all in your head. You're doing it to yourself. Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Yeah.
Just manage your stress better. Like, or just take an antidepressant and you'll be cured of your IBS. Like, you don't want to come off that way because a lot of people have had that experience already. So I was very careful to like broach it in a professional, down to earth, just like
a productive, like I feel like a productive way. I think a lot of times when that comes up in like a
judgy, I think is the key. Like I try to approach it in a non-judgy way, Yeah. Versus sometimes I think it's a judgment on the person, or it can be perceived as such. But I remember this patient sent me like a 1 to 2 page letter in the patient portal. And I had to laugh because when I was using the system, my patient portal limited the length of the message you could send.
Yeah.
So I can't have every single one of you writing me 2-page letters in between every goddamn appointment, guys. Like, you got to get a grip. You're not my only patient. But she bypassed it because she typed the letter in like a Word document, and then she uploaded the PDF as an attachment instead of doing a portal message.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, you're oblivious. But she wrote this big letter about, I can't believe you had the audacity to say that. And you are citing old research. That's 20-year-old research. I thought you were more up to date than that. I have SIBO, goddammit. I just need to cure the SIBO and then I'll be hunky-dory. But like, she explicitly said, you're citing 20-year-old research. I thought you were better than this. And I will agree to continue working with you if you super pinky promise me that you will never, ever bring up stress or mental health ever again. And I was like, I can't do that, for one. Like, we parted ways. I refunded her the remainder of her package. We parted ways. But I told her, I was like, I cannot in good conscience do that.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't do that for anybody. Like, even for myself, I think mental health and stress management is an important facet of my own shit, let alone you guys. So like, I cannot do that. And if that's a deal breaker, then like,
It's a deal breaker.
See you later, basically. But number 2, I thought to myself as I'm like reading this unhinged message, I was like, don't you see that
you're proving my point?
Yeah, this response is diagnostic of the thing that I brought up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're confirming exactly what I brought up. But anywho, it just, it's such a weird topic to get into because, you have to be really careful. People get very defensive about the nervous system regulation, mental health, et cetera, piece of IBS, but it is very well substantiated in research, like current research, not 20-year-old research, contrary to popular belief. There's like new papers coming out every day on IBS being a disorder of the gut-brain interaction.
I think it's hard in our particular patient population with people that have had severe IBS, and I think they're already so dysregulated and scared that sometimes, again, like they're not able to necessarily hear a message, even ones that they need to hear, at least at first. Maybe like the more times, even someone like that might be able to reflect like a year from that like, oh, that might have been the right message. But like in the moment, they cannot. I think about that a lot with my own IBS journey. It's like there were moments where like maybe the delivery was off, but the message was right. And it's like, oh, I was not in a place to hear that message. And there's a lot of instances, I feel like, with patients that I've had that experience too, where it's like, ooh, they're really not wanting the message that I'm giving them. I recently had a patient who we were talking about adding carbs in. And she, granted, again, I think she wanted to do it, but basically had a lot going on like the next couple months, and was very apprehensive of doing so because she was already bloating with the amount of carbs she was currently eating. But was kind of like, well, how do I not bloat like with adding these carbs in? And I was like, well, I think you're going to just be a little bloated and uncomfortable until your body adapts to the higher carb point. You've been low carb for a while.
Yeah.
Like this isn't going to be necessary. There's no way to make this a smooth transition. And I could tell she was a bit frustrated with that messaging. Granted, again, like I hope after the call she can like reflect and
Digest it a little
bit. And I think it's totally fine to be a little frustrated or like, ooh, that's not what I wanted to hear. But, I think that there's lots of instances when we're working with kind of severe patients that are scared, dysregulated for maybe them not to act in the way we want them to act, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'll say this too. I think a lot of the people we've worked with over the years have been in very atypical, severe situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes of their own doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've worked with people who have needed TPN because they've been so malnourished over the years.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I've worked with people who, they come to me and they've whittled their diet down to literally 3, 5, 10 foods.
Right.
And they've been eating this way for a prolonged period of time. And it's hard because, right, like when you put messaging out into the internet and like you produce videos and podcast episodes, it's hard to communicate all of the nuance.
Right.
But as a general rule of thumb, my messaging has been, and this is largely true, but over the years, my messaging has been, I can help you reintroduce foods. And I've worked with severe, cases and situations. And every human being, I believe, should be able to eat complex carbs and high FODMAP foods and plants.
Yeah.
And I can help you work through that and introduce foods. And that's all still really true and accurate. But the thing is, it's like, there's the person who's like, oh, I've been on like a modified low FODMAP diet for 6 months and I need a little bit of help just like figuring out how to get off of that. And then there's the situations where it's like, oh, I've been on super, super, super strict low FODMAP and doing kill phases and decimating my gut and doing God knows what. And I did carnivore for a while. And like, I've been doing this for 5-10 years. Or again, like the situations where it's like, I've whittled my diet down to 3 foods. And it's, it's like, when you get to that level, I'm sorry, but if you want to get from there back to a quote unquote normal diet, normal life, it's going to be a bumpy, unpleasant road. And there are going to be a lot of days between those two where you feel bloated, your bowel movements are weird, you want to throw in the towel, you're cursing my name, you're cursing Amy's name.
Right.
And it's like, I guess I historically have either directly promised or alluded to strongly results, but I've never once promised that it's going to be an easy process or an easy journey. And I do think sometimes, again, because of like the nature of the internet and the nature of, kind of how these types of platforms work, like I think sometimes people come in with the misunderstanding that like, I can help them and it's going to be totally smooth sailing and they're going to reintroduce foods and they're never going to feel bloated again.
Right.
And it's going to be all hunky dory. And it's like, no, there might be several months where you're like real bloated and you hate it very much, but you need to push through anyway.
Yeah.
Or, we need to experiment before we find something that really works for you. And it's just, it might suck. And to that point, I want to show the shirt that I chose for today's episode. I joked before we came on, like, Amy looks so nice today. Go watch the YouTube video. Look at her. She's got like a headband on. She's wearing a necklace and like a blouse. I mean,
it's a
she
dress,
looks,
actually, but yes.
You look classy.
Thank you.
And I went the total opposite direction with my wardrobe for today. And my t-shirt says F being an adult. But this human existence on Earth is just hard and tricky and confusing and like beautiful and horrible all at the same time. And I think that part of this journey is just like embracing that a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point too about things just not being easy, I think I have totally experienced that with patients where they're like, well, you said you can help me add foods in, but like I haven't been able to add foods in. It's like, well, but you haven't added them in. Like, or do you know what I mean? So
You're waiting.
right.
You're waiting to feel great
Right.
before you add the
Exactly.
foods in, or you're waiting for your food fear to totally go away before you add them in,
Yeah.
or like you're doing it in such an anal, slow way. Yeah, like
Yeah.
we never promised it would be quick or easy, or
Yeah.
that we never promised that you could do it without overcoming your mental bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I think it to me, it's really sort of equivalent in a lot of ways to building muscle or to like going to the gym. Like when you just start, lifting weights or something and you've never done it your whole life, or like it's been 10 years or something like that, like you're going to feel really sore for probably weeks and weeks. And even from that point, like you might push it, even when your body's getting used to it, you might push the level at the 2-month point and you might get sore again. And like, it might feel
or you
really
might have
hard.
an injury.
Right.
You might pull a hamstring,
Right.
or you might need to go do some physical therapy or chiropractic
Right.
or something, because that's a great way to frame it, because it's like if you've been sedentary your entire life
Right.
and now you want to be, what do the kids say, swole,
Yeah.
ripped. See, I'm a product of the 1980s, so like we would say ripped.
Yeah.
But I think the kids would say swole now. But it's like if you've been a couch potato your entire life and now you want to be jacked or ripped or swole, it's gonna be a process, and some of that process is gonna be painful, like muscle soreness, and and during the workout itself, you might experience.
You might want to give
pain.
up, and you might want to give up mental
Yeah.
too. There's mental stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know if I could push that hard.
Yeah, like in the moment, if you're running all out on a treadmill, you are in pain.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
freaking hurts.
Yeah.
Your lungs are burning, your muscles are burning. You think you're going to trip and fall flat on your face on the treadmill and embarrass yourself at the gym. There's like acute pain during the process of the workout. There's pain that happens after the workout during the recovery
Right.
period. There's a potential for injury, and it might be like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and you might experience that numerous times in a workout journey or a fitness journey. And I think that's a beautiful sort of framework for this stuff. Like there might be foods that you introduce and it goes totally smoothly and you think, oh my God, I've got this is
Right.
great. And there might be some foods that give you hell, and
Yeah.
you have diarrhea, bloating, whatever it might be, and like you need to learn how to build that resiliency and that mental toughness, and you need to develop an understanding of what constitutes alarm bells going off,
Right.
and like emergency, and what does not. And I'll mention this too, and then I think I want to get back to some of our bullet points that we laid forth before this episode started. But I have now made my best friend from high school famous on this podcast. Hi, Dan, you're famous. And I've told her this, and we laugh about this all the time on Marco Polo, but I brought this up as a framework. I have literally had at least 2 people that I can think of right now. I've had at least 2 people, maybe more over the years, email me in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. in an absolute tizzy. And they say, oh my God, I did not poop today, or maybe I didn't poop for 2 days.
Right.
Should I go to the ER? And then, I shit you not, oftentimes they are emailing again at like 6 a.m. and they're like, why haven't you gotten back to me?
Yeah.
It's like, because I'm sleeping. But I've had that happen at least 2 different times, where people are
Yeah.
royally freaked that they haven't pooped in 2 days and they are seriously contemplating going to the ER. And I've had to tell both of them as politely as possible, that's not my role here. Like, I'm not trained in emergency medicine. I'm a chiropractor and an herbalist, for crying out loud. Like, if you think you need to go to the ER, like, I should not be factoring into that equation at all. Like, you need to make that decision for yourself first. Second of all, my personal opinion is no, you should not go to the ER, because they're going to give you 2 capsules of Miralax, maybe a bag of fluids. They're going to look at you like you have 3 heads and you're a nutcase, and they're going to send your ass home with a $1,000 medical bill that you now have to pay
Right.
for 2 pills of Miralax and a bag of saline. So like, no, but the far opposite end of that, right? And again, it's like this pattern that we've observed over the years of like lots of anxiety, lots of health anxiety, lots of, like kind of compulsory behavior where it's like, I get a symptom, I have to act on it. I get a symptom, I have to do something. I have to fix it right now. And that is in stark contrast to my best friend from high school, who I've shared before. I shit you not, she poops 3 times a month.
It's insane.
And you never know. You talk to her, and like, if you bring it up directly, as I do, you know, if I bring it up directly, she's like, yeah, I would love to poop more. That would be great. That'd be great. And, you know, and like, I have mailed her probiotics before, and she'll take them, I think. I'm pretty sure she didn't throw them away, but like, she'll take the thing I mailed to her. But she's not going out seeking help. She's not really doing anything with her doctor. She's not seeking out a naturopath. She's not, you know, trying to fix it. She's just like, yeah, it kind of sucks. And it's, you know, I wish for all of us on Earth, I think that the best place to be is somewhere between those two extremes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, best friend from high school, I wish she cared more about her pooping.
Right.
I am worried for her that she could be setting herself up for like colon cancer or something bad one day because she literally never shits. I wish she gave a shit about her lack of shit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I also wish that most of my clients cared like a little bit less.
Right.
And they would get like a little bit less tightly wound when they have mild to moderate symptoms. And again, that's part of like what we have talked about a lot in the last, I would say the last 130 episodes. Because it's really like I think our deeper appreciation for the gut-brain connection and the stress and the OCD and the anxiety thing, I think that really happened when we came back in season 2 after your first maternity leave with Cece. Because again, that's where you started really exploring this for your own sake.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, I think that's the balance, and it could be a bit tricky, but I think that needs to happen for the healing to progress, in my opinion. But going back to our bullet pointed list, because this episode runs the risk of being very long if we're not careful.
Yes.
And we did have objectives. Let's take a moment to talk about favorite episodes and favorite memories, just for a little stroll down memory lane. I will say, I have 2 flavors of favorite episodes that I want to share. Number 1 is we've had a lot of good episodes over the years with people in like the mental health professions.
Yeah.
The ones that come to mind as being my personal favorites were Michelle Cavanaugh, the woman from Dare, the Dare anxiety app.
Yeah.
That to this day is one of my favorite all-time episodes. God, it was fun. She had so many great like teaching tools and methodologies.
Yeah.
And I still laugh about the ant photo. If you haven't watched that episode on YouTube with the video, you have to go watch it on YouTube, because there's a part with ants that just cracks my ass up, and you really need the visual. But Michelle Cavanaugh actually is one of my all-time favorite episodes. And I really enjoyed the recent episode we had with Mitch talking about somatic kind of stuff. I thought that was a great one. And I also really liked the episodes that we did with Sarah Ballantyne, the Nutrivore, Paleo Mom, that lady. I think those were some of my favorites. And then the other category, so there's like some guest episodes that were really highlights for me. The other category is we have several episodes completely throwing functional medicine under the bus.
Yeah.
And talk, you know, we poked fun at test, don't guess, and that bullshit. We talked about, you know, functional lab testing. We've talked about like the problems with functional medicine just in general.
Yeah.
And those have ended up being some of the more impactful favorite episodes, in my opinion, as well. So those are some of my favorites. How about you?
Yeah. I feel like you covered a lot of mine. I think Michelle Cavanaugh episode was so funny, and I feel like
she might be my favorite, actually. Out of all the episodes, she might be my number 1 favorite episode that we've done.
I think I laughed so hard when she was talking about, when she was like on her rant about shit, about pooping in a store. She's like, it's not your problem, it's their problem. Like, again, she was, I was like, I think I was like crying laughing, because it was just kept going, like sputtering out of control, and it just made me giggle really bad. But I Michelle Cavanaugh was so fun. I feel like a couple of the other ones that come to mind that you didn't mention, I thought it was fun that we had Jason Haralack because he was such a, and then you were like fangirling with that one too. Pretty hardcore.
I fangirled the hardest with Jason Haralack and Emma from Therapy in a Nutshell. She was another favorite of mine, actually.
Yeah,
and that's under that umbrella of like mental health professionals that we've interviewed. But yeah, I fangirled it so hard to meet Emma also.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there was like a few episodes, like I always like a lot of the nutrition ones too. I think just being an RD.
Biased.
Yeah, I know, really. So I do like a lot of those. It's been fun to revisit some of the single nutrients that we did. I do think that just broadly speaking, I like the idea, and it's so like fundamental to the work I do, of us like sort of understanding that we've never been nourished. We even had an episode, I think, called like Never Nourished. But it's basically this idea that, you know, most of us haven't ever looked at our nutrition, like you were talking about earlier in the episode. And that nutrition governs so much of the gut brain and how it operates. So if you're deficient in different nutrients, like micronutrients, if you're deficient in calories or macros, like that's going to make a big difference in how your gut brain functions. So a lot of the nutrition episodes I really like, and like Never Nourished, or talking about like the problems with low FODMAP. Like I don't know where some of those episodes are, but those I always really enjoyed doing. Yeah, I always really enjoyed doing like the nutrition episodes where we could just like, you know, bitch about low FODMAP and stuff. But vent. Yeah, just vent and kind of redirect people to sort of like abandon some of the really common popular ideas around diet for IBS and start looking a lot more at like, how can I nourish myself? Because that's going to affect the gut brain, in my opinion, way more long-term than FODMAP will.
Yeah. Well, and to that point too, yeah, the nutrition episodes, I wound up really liking the single nutrient series also. It was a little bit of a labor of love, I think, for both of us, because like we were brushing up on stuff and trying to find some new research to talk about. But I enjoyed, if nothing else, I got to reference one page in the Nutrivore book for pretty much every episode. And that was page 10 of this version of it, at least. Page 10, prevalence of nutrition insufficiencies, or nutrient insufficiencies, sorry. And it, you know, proportion of American adults consuming less than the estimated average requirement. So we're not even talking RDA, by the way. We're talking EAR, which is different. But anyway, 100% of Americans not eating enough vitamin D. Granted, that's like, there's
that's
an
a
asterisk.
Weird one. Yeah.
That's an asterisk next to that anyway, because that's
people don't usually get it from their food.
Yeah, but nonetheless, 97.8% of Americans don't eat enough potassium. 96.2% do not eat enough vitamin E. 90.2% don't eat enough folate. 80.1% don't eat enough vitamin A. 72% don't eat enough vitamin K. 66% don't eat enough magnesium. The list goes on. But my point is, you could be skirting through life like, yeah, I eat pretty healthy, and you don't even fucking know. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, how many times have we had conversations with patients? Like, I have had so many conversations with patients. It's like, I'm eating plenty. And I'm like, okay, like, let's actually look. And they're under fueling by like 1,000 calories. And you're like, no, you're not. I think women in particular, it can be a little more common, although I still see it in men, just because I think we're not really taught how to eat for performance or like eat for optimal function. Whereas I feel like at least men are like, oh, if I'm working out, I need to eat more. And like, I need to eat like a man, kind of.
If I want to be a bro in the gym.
Right.
Yeah, right. I agree. I do see it in both sexes, but for sure more in women. I remember I had a patient maybe 2.5 years ago, and she told me with a straight face that she eats a big breakfast, and it was 300 calories.
Yeah, yeah.
She deemed that to be a big breakfast. And I was like, girl, we need to talk.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that was one thing that I harped on a little bit, and I think it annoyed her at various points. But I was like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, she was one of these. She ate like 1,200 or 1,300 calories, and that was way under what she needed. Right. And it was like banging my head against a brick wall every time trying to talk about nutrition.
Right. That's what my 4-year-old needs to eat. is 1,200 calories, not a grown woman.
No. No.
Yeah,
Unless, my best friend in the whole wide world is 5 feet tall and 95 pounds. But she's also a tiny Asian girl.
Yeah.
And so like maybe if you are at that level where like, I was joking about this recently, best friend Mamie actually needs like a thick cushion under her butt when she drives her car. And Mike was like, why doesn't she adjust like the seat? Does she drive that old of a car? And I was like, no. She adjusts the seat position so it's all the way forward and all the way up. And she still needs like a 3-inch butt cushion and a pillow behind her back. Otherwise, she's like not going to reach the pedals. So if you are midge like best friend Mamie, and you're at that level of like petite stature, for reference, best friend Mamie, same size and same weight as my 10-year-old daughter, which cracks me up. Like if you're that tiny, maybe we can talk about, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800 calories, somewhere shy of that. But shy of you being that tiny, like I can guarantee you need more than 1,200 calories.
Right.
And yeah, we see that all the time.
And I think, no, I totally agree. I feel like it's such a huge one that we talked about. We beat that horse.
We
beat that horse.
We beat it good.
I'm trying to think of some memories. The other time I laughed really hard, the Michelle Kavanaugh one, I laughed really hard. And the other one, I know exactly what episode. I think it's in Candida Part 2.
I knew you were going to say this.
When you told the story about like the person ordering at Subway or something, the sub shop.
Yep. It was the ranch story.
I don't know why that tickled me to death so much, but like I feel like sobbing. I was like crying. I could not control myself. Yes, you did have me in stitches.
That was actually the exact memory I was going to bring up too. You're right. It was Candida Part 2. It was back in season 1, I think.
Yeah.
It was season 1. And it was the second of the 2 Candida episodes we did back to back. And it was at the very end of the episode, I think. I restrained myself and I waited until the end of the episode to share that story. And I still sometimes go back and rewatch that too, because I crack up. Another favorite moment, again, Michelle Kavanaugh with the ant and showing like, here's a picture of the ant zoomed out and here's a picture of the ant's face. And both of us were like, and she's like, case in point. Yeah. And that was another favorite of mine. Another one that I don't know if you remember, way back, this would have been like episode 20 or something. We did an introduction for a sleep episode.
Yeah.
That I made you do this. I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And so we opened up and I pretended to be asleep. And then you were going to come in and be like, Nikki, the podcast.
Yeah.
And you delivered your lines so well, but you did not mentally prepare for my acting ability.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly,
the commitment level.
You thought that I was going to be cute and precious and like do something like this with my, my hands folded neatly and like, like a precious angel. And instead I just went, like mouth open, head back, snort, drool. And you were not mentally prepared for that. And it took us several takes.
I think I was like nervous too about delivering my line. I don't like being put on the spot, as we all know.
But you know what? You've grown in 230 episodes. Remember the episode that will have come out right before this one? We recorded it a few weeks ago, but the episode immediately before this, remember we wrapped up and I was like, okay, 2 truths and a lie. And you were like, wait, what?
Right,
but I think you hacked it pretty well. So yes, I think you
guys can all be the judge
in your acting. Yeah. Yeah. Let us know. Do you think Amy's acting has improved over the years? Yay or nay? Give her an A+ to F- rating on her improved acting ability. But I think you've come a long way.
Yeah. I feel like I want to invite people too, which would be kind of fun, is to comment. Like on Spotify, you can comment on the episode. Like, are there any favorite memories or episodes or like what they've liked most about the podcast? That'd be really fun to read just for us. If you're so inclined and want to share anything, that would be super fun. I think.
And you can comment on YouTube too. Like YouTube or Spotify both have comment sections. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
That actually kind of segues perhaps into another bullet point that we had outlined for today. And that is, Will there ever be another episode? Will we do a reunion tour of the IBS Freedom Podcast? And it could be months from now, years from now, decades from now.
Whoa.
Can you even?
We'll
can you
be
envision?
grandmas like we did in the 100th episode.
Oh, that was another highlight. That was pretty funny too. I don't know if anybody else thought it was funny, but we thought it was freaking hilarious. Wearing our granny wigs and our pearls. Oh my God. How did I forget that?
I feel like our mom was like, what the hell is this when it came in the mail?
Which is saying something because your
clearly we're
husband
doing
is like a
100th
weirdo
episode.
too.
Yeah.
It's
Got his own little prop closet,
Yeah. I mean, I still have all those props.
Yeah.
I didn't throw them away. Who would do that? Oh my God. Yeah. So reunion tour. I will say, going back to the reasons why we wrapped this podcast up, right, is that I feel like we've said it all. Shy of having a lot of guest episodes. I think we've said it all. But I will say we are human beings and we are always learning, always reading, always writing. I would be open-minded to doing a reunion episode here or there. Whether we post it as like a podcast episode is up for grabs versus maybe I'll just have you come onto my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right. And we do something on that platform. But yeah, I hope that we do some manner of a reunion episode or a reunion tour at some point down the road. I just don't know when that would be. My husband actually joked this morning. He was like, whoa, have fun recording your last one. That's crazy. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's wild. And he's like, so are you done with Amy after this? And I was like, totally. I'm going to block her ass, unfriend her on Facebook. Well,
yeah. Guys are so funny.
Joke.
Isn't that, I feel like that's a typical guy thing.
Well, he was joking, but yeah, I was like, no, clearly we're going to talk. We will talk probably almost as much as we ever did. Because we go back and forth on Marco Polo all the time. And I send you dissertations when I drive to my conferences for that matter. But yeah, we'll keep in touch for sure. This bloomed into a very genuine friendship, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
And yeah, so I would be tickled if we did some manner of a reunion tour down the road. It's just a matter of where that would pop up in existence, if it would be a podcast episode or if it would be a YouTube video kind of thing.
For sure. I think
or
so.
Instagram live.
Or again, just more time goes by and we learn different things, like you said, and want to have more stuff to share. I think you're right in saying we've covered so much. Doesn't mean that there isn't more that we could, pull out, but I feel like it's kind of one of those things.
We might have bandwidth later on too. Because like I said, you have little kids right now. When the kids are both in school, right? And they're, when Frankie's going off to kindergarten and you have your days back and I theoretically make it out of my midlife crisis on the other side of whatever that looks like, right? We might have the bandwidth and the desire and the additional experience that we're oh, let's talk about some stuff again.
Right. For sure.
Don't know until we get there, I guess.
Yes.
It's kind of where I'm at.
It's true.
But yeah, so reunion tour, maybe. I'll say too, here's another thought. When I said, or an Instagram live, another thing popped into my head, and that is the world is weird and the internet is weird and always changing. And if you think about it, if we had this same conversation 6 years ago or 7 years ago, TikTok didn't exist.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we wouldn't have known that TikTok was going to explode in popularity the way it did. So for all we know, a few years from now, there could be a new social media thing in town. And maybe we're both going to fall in love with that new thing, right? I don't know what it's going to be, right? Hologram,
robots are going to follow us around and we can just
I'm
talk.
picturing Leia playing the recording on R2-D2, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, and it's a hologram.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have left at this point because we've got short form, long form, video, X, we've got all the other things. But, maybe there will be some new platform and maybe we will fall in love with that and maybe we will rendezvous and do a live stream over on that other platform for all that we know. But yeah, I would say certainly if you follow either or preferably both of us on our social channels, and if you stay subscribed to this podcast, we'll do our best to let you know when and if a reunion tour does happen.
Right.
That's, I guess, what I can say.
Yeah. Also, I feel like I know it's been sort of like, I don't know, I've probably mentioned it a few times, but not like super in depth, but I've been kind of more substacking lately versus Insta. Man, Instagram, I feel like you post stuff, but no one sees your stuff. So, and I feel like it's a little bit more like, I do like more long form content as well. Like I like blogging. It kind of takes me back to my roots of what I started in this space to begin with. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I feel like I was feeling a little bit burnt out last year, but since kind of going on Substack and doing a lot more writing and interacting in that space, that's been really like giving me some life back, I feel like, social media wise, versus like zapping my energy. Because it's like, oh, you'll put in so much time and energy into an Instagram post. And it's like, well, the first 6 seconds weren't engaging enough. So like, it does make
It's not
me
even,
laugh.
I think it's 3. I think they say like you have 3 seconds.
Okay,
for the
what's
hook.
cracking me up is there's a dietitian. I think her name is the woman's dietitian. She's Corey. She's an RD. And like, it always cracks me up. She like keeps posting videos with like really like attention grabbing weird things for like the first 2 seconds. It's, like something really gross, like slime, like
Because that's the game.
slimy hands. And then it's like, hey, I'm glad I got your attention. I'm just like, okay, I think it's hilarious that she's doing it, but like, I can't do it. Like, I can't get into the phase of like worrying about the game of like attention grabbing and like pulling on your emotions so much the first 3 seconds. Like, I just can't. I'm too old right now to play this game.
What does that make me then? I'm 4 years older than you. I must be older than dirt. Oh no.
Well, no. You know what I mean. But I'm just feel like I'm like too far along in the space to like, and have too little time to be worrying about like if I'm playing the algorithms enough so that I'm showing up at everybody's feed. It's like, I just don't want to be doing that game anymore. So I am on Instagram, but I feel like not nearly as much just because it's a lot of time and energy to try to like do that. Mm-hmm. So again, I've been really kind of enjoying the shift to Substack because again, it's more long form writing. I feel like I've been really enjoying it. I'm still working on my book, but it's kind of taken a backseat for the last like till I've been able to kind of get through like Frankie's birth and things like that. So
I mean, I think that's fine. You're a living, breathing human being.
But that is something
supposedly.
It's still on my agenda to like really start working on, which is like something too, when I wrap the podcast, I have a little bit more time to do some of these extra things to kind of like finally get the finishing touches on that. I'm probably about 70% done. It's just the last like 30% is like less fun. It's like the less fun part, so I feel like it's a little bit less motivating. But I'm excited for that. I think again, I'm hoping, with the podcast wrapping, with kind of like the next maybe 6 months to a year having it published would be sort of my hopeful expectation. But yeah, having 2 kids that have been like horrendous sleepers have not helped my life.
It's their fault.
It's not their fault, but like pushing myself to do anything more than what I have to do is much more challenging when like you have no idea. Like you'll have a week of Frankie just like waking up for 3 hours in the middle of the night. And you're like, what? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. Why are you the way that you are?
So yeah. So
no, I think that's perfectly reasonable and understandable.
Yes.
And I think this is a great lesson in like you are demonstrating that idea of like giving yourself grace and giving yourself some space and like not forcing something. And like, we, especially in the United States, we are so used to push, productivity, and like deadlines. Yeah. And it's, we pride ourselves on being busy and productive and producing the thing. And it's, I don't think that's how humans are meant to be. I don't think that's how the world is meant to be. Like if you think the planet itself goes through spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And like I read a book around the holidays, which I really enjoyed. It was largely about business stuff, but it was about kind of framing your business as a regenerative gardening or like a regenerative ecosystem. And she made the point. She's like, in a business, for example, you're going to have periods where you're working a lot and you're sowing the seeds, but
Right.
you're not actually taking in the money yet,
Right.
right? Like you are recording the videos, you're recording the course, you're writing the book, you're doing the work, but you're not actually reaping the benefit of that work
Right.
yet, per se. Then you get into like summer and fall and you get the bounty, the harvest. You
Right.
get to reap what you've sown. And everybody kind of idolizes that phase of it where
Yeah.
it's like, ah, the money is rolling in and I am successful and I am fulfilled and this is all great.
Right.
But then what comes after the harvest? Then we get a break. We get winter. We
Right.
get to kind of hibernate and rest and not focus on productivity for a while. And we kind of retreat within a little bit and stay cozy and have some closeness. And, you know, if we get enough rest in winter and we, you know, rejuvenate the soil and take a break from the heat and the sun, then we can look toward the next spring and we can start planting the seeds and repeating the cycle again. But, you know, God bless the United States. And I mean that in the Southern way, like bless their heart. Bless our hearts in the United States. We just want to be in perpetual summer all day, every day
Yeah.
for decades and decades, if
Yeah.
not centuries. And like, I don't think that's how it works. I think that each individual human and each business and each ecosystem like should be allowed to experience the
Yeah.
rest in winter.
Yeah.
And that's
Should
kind
be
of
able
what I've
to-
been telling myself for that matter is I'm kind of in a little bit of a winter, starting to look towards spring a little bit, but yeah, kind of cutting myself some slack. But if you're raising kids and you're focused on, you know, you're focused on something else right now, I think it's reasonable that you don't worry about, you know, how productive those seeds are
Yeah.
quite yet, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny. I don't know how this has come up so much in my algorithm, but like, man, the business coaches have found me like because it's like everything on Instagram's like, and you can scale. And like, it's like, you know, and it's like, well, I really don't want to scale right now. It's like, I just want to like be left alone kind of and like see patients a little bit, write a little bit. You know, I'm not necessarily in that phase right now to be like,
Yeah.
you needed it, but it's like everything's so urgent,
Push,
you
push,
know?
push.
Yeah, and it's like, I
Yeah.
know, I'm fine, just like lingering around. And, you know, sometimes they'll message me directly. And I've worked with some in the past that have actually messaged me recently. And I'm just kind of like, oh, like, I'm good. Like, you know, I'm luckily in a situation where I don't need to push super hard. Like,
Like good enough is good enough.
right. It's
you
like,
know?
granted, like, if someone wants to make more money or like push a little further, scale more, like by all means do it. But like I am
Yeah.
just not in that place. But it is funny because like I don't know what about my art. Again, like they have found me. Somehow I'm on some list because it's like
They have a group chat. They're like,
Right.
go get her now.
I'm like, oh, there's that guy again. Oh, there's that. Like it's crazy. And I feel like there's so many now. Like it's kind of
That's funny.
overwhelming. But yeah, I think
Well-
I think you're right. The season, like being able to understand where you're at, I think is a really good lesson in general.
Yeah, and like not expecting summer level
Right.
harvests in the dead of winter.
Right,
you know?
right.
And like not putting that pressure on yourself. I think too, you circled around something that I want to talk about. I think that one of the facets of my current midlife crisis, existential crisis, is I personally am very frustrated with and disillusioned with social media and the internet in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a cure per se. I think I just have to find where that balance is for me.
right.
If I'm being honest, my dream right now is that I could live in a cabin in the woods and just be like a witch, like a witchy
Yeah.
woman, like an herbalist, and just like frolic in the forest and talk to the birds and the plants and like forage and harvest my herbs. And then maybe just go into town once a week and sell some herbs and sell
Yeah.
some potions and then go back to my little witch's cabin and commune with nature. But sadly, that kind of existence is that life is few and far between in the modern world. And the path that I have gone on thus far has led me to be an online business person and have a YouTube channel and a podcast and, all of these things. And like, I work with people virtually. So I think, I've been distancing myself from social media, both on a personal level and on a professional level. And I've gotten to a point where I don't remember the last time I posted anything on Instagram.
Right.
Like theoretically I'm there. I have an account and I have followers. I just haven't said a peep in, I don't even know, like a year. And similarly, I really haven't posted on my YouTube channel hardly at all in a year and a half. And I'm kind of reconciling and like digesting, what social media is going to look like for me and my business. And like, how am I going to create content that I think is valuable and frankly, like brings in paying customers? Cause that's the point of the racket, right? Like we're business owners and we need to earn money. So like, how can I create content that's going to bring in paying customers and provide some value to my followers and not dysregulate my nervous system or further dysregulate the nervous system of the people who I'm doing business with? Because that's the thing is like, we are all, whether we want to admit it or not, we're all, scrolling and we're all getting these ads and these TikToks and these reels that again, like it's a game. It's common knowledge in the content creator space that you have 2 or 3 seconds to do the hook and grab somebody's attention before they scroll past you. And you get into stuff like this where like people do weird or shocking things, or they say something really controversial right out the gate in the first second or 2 of the video, because they're literally trying to hook you in like a fish, and they're trying to get you to watch the rest of the video. And unfortunately, I think part of the internet and social media too is that sensational, controversial, inflammatory content grabs attention and commands the most shares and the most comments. And so it's just, I don't know. I don't know if there's a cure for this. But I'm trying to find a balance where I understand that like, at least for the current iteration of my professional life, I probably need to have some presence on the internet somewhere. And like, where can I do that in a way that is like sustainable and feels good for my nervous system and hopefully for the nervous systems of those who choose to follow me? And how can I conduct business and conduct myself ethically and like have a moral compass in this day and age where it's all just tricks and pony shows. And everything is AI generated. Yeah. And that drives me nuts too. I hate AI with a fiery passion. And I actually just decided, I don't know if I told you this, I just decided the other day, I told the person who's helping me build my website out right now, I told her I want to put an AI statement right on my homepage and map out like, I do not and will never, cross my heart, I will never use AI to make clinical decisions of any kind.
Yeah.
I will never use AI to analyze your blood work or analyze your stool test or analyze your labs. If you wanted that, you could do that yourself, There's an element of that too, but I will never use AI to make a video for my social media and YouTube. Like it's neat that, but there's just, I will use AI very occasionally to reword an email that I'm struggling to write. And mostly it's like I need to take out some of the emotional tone out of, you can't send an email to a client that's like, you fucking lunatic. If you would just get a grip, you can't, you can't do that. Yeah. So, if I can take my bullet points of like what I need to communicate and then give it to the AI and be like, can you please write this email for me? Because I'm just not capable in my current mental state. Right. And then have AI write my email for me. Like that's where I think AI is useful for me personally. Or as we mentioned in a recent episode, maybe meal planning. I think meal planning, that could be a really useful use for AI.
Oh yeah.
But that's kind of the extent of where I see it playing a role in my business. And it just occurred to me recently. I was like, maybe other people feel the same way and they're sick of the AI and they're sick of, getting bad advice or questionable advice from AI, or, they're frustrated because they're like paying a coach or paying a doctor to get what is very clearly AI generated advice.
Right.
And they were really hoping for human advice and like a human connection. And like more and more professionals are swapping out the human connection and just using AI to try to make their business easier. And like, I want to communicate that that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not like my values. That's not where I stand on the AI topic. So I'm going to put that on my homepage here, hopefully this week.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't blame you. Yeah, it's a wild world. I think the AI space.
Existential crisis. Yeah. Just weird times all the way around. But like I said, I hope that I can maintain some semblance of sanity and some sense of presence on the internet. Should we start wrapping up, my sweet? And should we maybe tell the good people where they can find us? I'm sure there's at least one person who's listening to this episode and they're like, oh no, I just found you guys. Oh my God, like, where do I follow you now? Or maybe just our other people who are distraught right now. But can you remind everybody, how would they find you on Substack? How would they find you on the open general internet, like a domain name or URL? And like, if theoretically they wanted to follow you on Instagram and see the few posts that you do on there, like where would they find you on there? Like those are your 3 platforms, right? Like you have a website, you have this podcast, which is now over. You have Instagram, you have Substack. Am I leaving anything out?
Those are the main ones.
You closed down your OnlyFans, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, we had to get rid of that. I'm
kidding, for the record.
But yeah, so I just had to double check because I'm not used to, I had it right in my head, but just want to double check. My Substack that I post weekly articles. There's a little bit more exclusive content if you're paid. Usually I'll do one like paid article a month. So one paid article a month and like some Q&As for more paid subscribers. But then every week, if you just want free content, I'll usually post one free post a week. And then, every 4 or 5 weeks, I'm posting something just exclusively for the paid subs. So that's where I am primarily now. You can still find me on Instagram at Amy_Hollenkamp_RD, and there's links and stuff. My current website, I probably need to change the name, is SIBOrepair.com. Which, like,
considering we did an episode like
on
2
breaking
years
up
ago
with SIBO,
titled "Breaking Up with SIBO."
So yeah, that probably needs to be changed at some point, but I'm just too lazy. But that is my website. Like, if you're interested in my program, it would be SIBOrepair.com/join. So yeah, that would probably be the website you could find me at. So yeah,
and you could always, if when in doubt, too. People could Google your name.
Yeah.
I feel like Hollenkamp is not such a common last name, right? It's not like Smith or Jones or something. Like if they Googled Amy Hollenkamp RD, I'm sure they would pull up all of your stuff that way too.
Yeah,
or if they search for you like in Substack, if they forgot for some reason. Yeah, if I can reciprocate now. One flavor of my shit that I'm waffling through at the moment is I realized one day that I had too many websites and too many emails, and it was confusing and overwhelming to maintain all of that. So I'm in the process right now, in the middle of it. I'm trying to go from 2 websites, and I'm not joking, 8 different email addresses associated with those 2 domains. I'm trying to whittle it down to 1 website and like 1 or 2 email addresses. And I've got to go through the internet and like update a lot of stuff. But my new website that actually just got published this week, as a matter of fact, everything is going to this website now, is just nikkidaneza.com. I realized that I had the URL up for my brick and mortar office in Chapel Hill. it was still alive and well. And I closed that brick and mortar office 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's high time that URL gets a redirect. And I realized I have and still have ownership of FODMAPfreedom.com. But I decided to not offer FODMAP Freedom ever again. So that name doesn't make sense either. I am in the process of designing and working on a new group coaching offer. It won't be called FODMAP Freedom. When information's available, when you're able to join, that will all be at nikkidaneza.com. Right now, it's still just in the infantile stages of development. I'm basically giving myself the summer to reflect on FODMAP Freedom, what was good, what was difficult, what worked, what didn't work, like what I want to keep the same, what I want to change, and kind of taking some time to like mourn a little bit, actually, because that I was and still am so proud of FODMAP Freedom and how many people it helped and how good and valuable that was for my students. But there's also like some baggage and some shit from, like for me specifically, just like some things that I think need to change and update. And like, I need to get better about communicating and enforcing some boundaries. And I need a big lesson in being a little bit more detached from client outcomes and not attaching myself quite so hardly to the idea of whether or not you get results. Like I'm going to do my best, right? I'm going to do my damnedest and I'm going to be honest with you and I'm going to give you the best possible experience I can. But at the end of the day, it is up to you if you change your diet. It is up to you if you go to marriage counseling and work on your shitty relationship. It's up to you if you get your ass outside and get some vitamin D and some sunshine and retrain your circadian rhythm. And I'm just, as I breathing, that's right, snaps.
Yeah.
Can I share the millennial version of snaps, I think?
What is it?
Do you remember this one? Like that one where you like go do the back and forth zigzag snap, like
Yeah.
But truly, I think that when I set out and I told people that there was a guarantee, a money back guarantee on FODMAP Freedom, and if your gut health isn't better, I'll just give you your money back. I didn't fathom how aggravating and how draining that was going to be to administer, and how frustrating it would be when I gave somebody what I believed to be good, accurate advice and they chose to not act on it. Or again, maybe their life circumstances, like maybe they're not in a place where they could act on it, but then they turn around and say my program doesn't work and they want their money back. And like just how aggravating that was, and and how that would impact my mental health and my ability to show up in my work. So so closing FODMAP Freedom, that chapter of my life. I'm just doing some one-on-one work right now with folks, and I'm in the process of developing my new group coaching program and building in a little bit better boundaries for myself in that. So stay tuned. But everything can be found at nikkidaneza.com, and it's Nikki, the correct spelling of Nikki. We're not doing any of the CKY, CKI, KKY.
Well, you just
none of
showed
that
really,
business.
That book you had was a bad spelling of Amy too.
Oh yeah. Well, it's different for sure. AIMIE. That's definitely a different spelling.
That's
of
not
Amy.
even usually that version has 2 E's, not an IE.
That's what I think I told you in a Marco Polo recently, right? I was like, I think it's that.
So weird.
Very weird. I'm excited to read this though. The biology of trauma. But yeah, all my stuff, nikkidaneza.com. Like I said, right now, my YouTube channel and my Instagram are called Gut Microbiome Queen. I might change that because, again, I'm really less interested in the microbiome than I think I ever have been, which is so weird. Yeah. Well, and again, like, I'm very interested in the microbiome from the standpoint of if you do the unsexy basics and if you eat enough goddamn fiber and variety, you should do that for the sake of your microbiome. So I care very deeply from that standpoint. But again, like getting super prescriptive with like, oh, you have Klebsiella, therefore you should take, this particular variety of cat's claw extract and you need a biofilm distract. It's that kind of conversation. Or again, even honestly, even the conversation of like, oh, your bifido is low, so we need to give you bifido-based probiotics, or we need to do very specific things to feed your bifido. Like, I don't know. I feel like people can just try partially hydrolyzed guar gum and they will know if it's working for them, regardless of what it does to their bifido numbers.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
well, yeah, I think
at that place.
I feel like the microbiome's a smaller supporting role, like maybe like, it's not necessarily the star. The star is the unsexy basics. And like, if you want to get in the weeds or like choose to highlight that piece more, we could, but like, I think it's so much like the guiding light, the star of the show in so many people's minds. And then it actually distracts and disorients them more than it helps.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I think another framework I'll offer is that the microbiome is the mechanism why a lot of things work. But you don't need to know the mechanism for something to work. I guess that's right. So like, hold on, give me 1 moment to pause and let me think of a good example. Okay, like I'll go super basic and back to nutrition. What was it like in the 1600s or 1700s? They observed that they could prevent scurvy in like oceanic travelers, like ship people. What am I looking for? Sailors. They could prevent scurvy in their sailors if they had like some citrus fruit and they had citrus on their voyage, right? They didn't know about freaking vitamin C. For us, the nerds of the world, is it really cool to know the why behind why that works? Absolutely. And I'll talk about the why, and that's really fun and nerdy. But like at the end of the day, did they need to like do all the science and do all the testing and find vitamin C and discover it and name it and then quantify it in order to get the benefit from the goddamn limes on the ship? No, they didn't. And I feel like that's where I'm at. It's like, we know it's important to eat fiber. I'm sorry, carnivore people, you're wrong. Like, I'm just going to say, like, you're wrong. Like, we know that eating plants is important. We know that eating fiber is important. We know that variety is the spice of life and eat the rainbow and all of that crap that we've heard for literally decades, if not centuries. Do we need to understand exactly what microbe we're feeding when we eat cooked and cooled rice? I don't know, like, having learned a lot about the microbiome in the last 10, 12 years of my career, I actually would wager that we don't need to know that. And we can do the healthy thing and we can do the supportive thing and we can eat the healthy diet anyway and just have some faith that it's doing good things for our microbiome without overanalyzing the shit out of it. So that's what I would say. The microbiome is the mechanism, but yeah, it doesn't have to be the star of the show. I will share briefly, because I realize this is now a beast of an episode. But it's okay, because it's the grand finale. I have started feeling the twinge of wanting to write a book myself. I don't know. I have 0 pages written, so don't get too excited yet. At least Amy's like 70% of the way there. I am not. But I think I told you off camera when you started writing your book, I was like, I know I want to write a book someday, and I know I will, but I'm waiting for like that spark, that twinge, that nudge. And I got that more recently. And what I will say at this point is there's no timeline whatsoever at this point. But what I will say is that the topic I want to write about is going to beautifully complement your book, because when you started writing your book and I started noodling on it myself, there was a piece of me that thought, I don't want to write about nutrition because I don't want to step on your toes. And since I'm going to read your book when it's like in the final stages of, editing and before publishing, like I don't want to like learn something from your book and then regurgitate that in my book and like borderline plagiarize your content too. Like I want to keep it pure. I don't want to steal things from your book. So I kind of had an inkling that my book would not be focused primarily on nutrition. I knew that much. But it occurred to me more recently, I think nervous system regulation, vagus nerve, vagal tone, rest and digest, trauma, stress chemistry, how to regulate your nervous system, how to balance your nervous system and your stress chemistry, and how to regulate your nervous system so that your gut is able to do its job and function better. That is going to be the topic of the book. What that all looks like and, what I have to do to get there is still up for grabs. It's probably several years in the making at this point. But I've started doing more and more deep dives on the topic of IBS being a disorder of the gut-brain interaction, vagal tone, various, mental health diagnoses and personality traits and patterns and things that we see in people with IBS, and like, what does that mean for the individual reading the book, and how could we distill it down into like real life practical advice? So stay tuned. I won't say more than that because I don't know more than that, but eventually there will be a book on the horizon. And I think that I am going to get into Substack. I've been meaning to do that, as you have spoken positively about that and that experience. I think as I do more research for the book and I'm reading a lot of articles, I'm going to do something a little different than I think what you do. You're writing actual articles. I'm probably just going to do like some research summaries and just put that out there of like, hey, here's the paper. Yeah. Here's, the big highlights, the big bullet points. Here's a little bit more of a summary of like, the study and what they found. And here's, my notes or my thoughts or my takeaways down at the bottom. So mine's probably going to be like much more directly like focused on individual research papers and just trying to glean like a couple of highlights or a couple of bullet points from those research papers that I'm reading. So for the ultra nerds among you, if that sounds fun, I don't have anything on Substack yet as of June when we're recording this episode, but I do want to get that going here soon now that the podcast is wrapping up and I'll have a little bit more time.
Cool.
Oh my
gosh. My phone's blowing up. I think Cece's kind of sick, so I might need to jump off here soon.
That's okay. But can I make one final weird request for our viewers here? So I have mapped out, as the producer, so to speak, of this podcast, more so, I have mapped out when this episode will post. And it is actually the day before my 40th birthday.
Whoa.
So I just want to acknowledge that this is my 39-year-old face.
Oh, wow.
I made a point to not wear any makeup, not get dolled up. This is real life Nikki.
A one beauty.
Yes, this is the real me, so to speak. No, no mascara today. But tomorrow, in the future, I embark on the second half of my life. And I found a quote that I just wanted to share. I think it's Carl Jung, right? That's a famous person. But basically the quote was something to the effect of the first 40 years of your life is practice and your real life begins when you turn 40. And the second half of your life is the real show. And I thought that was kind of apropos given that I am knocking on the door of my 40th birthday tomorrow when you hear this episode. So, so I'll see you on the other side of 40.
I know. Can't wait.
All right, my friend. Well, this was a wonderful ride. I can't imagine finding a better pod person anywhere on Earth or in outer space for that matter. Yes. Kisses, snaps, hearts. Yes. It was an absolute pleasure hosting this podcast with you for as many years as we did. And here's to a possible reunion tour and
likewise,
book
lift the glass.
Book signing party. Yes, something in the future. But thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, no, it's been a great ride. So much has happened. We've evolved so much. And again, we're just on to the next chapter.
Yeah. And I think our paths will cross again professionally.
Yes.
And
true.
I am, for the record, I'm not unfriending you on Facebook, and I'm
Okay,
not
good.
blocking your phone
Good. You're not
number,
done
so
with me. You're not
feel
done.
free to text. Feel free to polo me. But yeah, that's a wrap for our outwardly facing relationship as it pertains to this podcast. Until we meet again for a reunion tour, this is over and out from the IBS Freedom Podcast. Toodaloo.